Gaia the Fierce Knight is one of those Yu-Gi-Oh monsters that looks way stronger than he actually is. That is really the whole problem with him. He comes out like a legendary warrior. He has the horse, the spear, the dramatic knight armor, the whole I have arrived to save the kingdom energy. And then you look at the numbers and realize this man is not saving anything. He is a level 7 monster with 2300 attack. That is not horrible in a vacuum. But Yu-Gi-Oh is not played in a vacuum. It is played in a world where Kaiba is throwing Blue Eyes White Dragons on the table like he bought them in bulk. Yugi has Dark Magician, and Summon Skull exists as a cheaper, stronger monster that makes Gaia look like he showed up to the wrong tournament. The funny thing about Gaia is that he was never treated like a weak monster in the show. Duel Monsters presents him like one of Yugi's serious cards, not a joke card. Not a filler card, not a random Beaver Warrior creature that exists mostly to get slapped around until Yugi draws something useful. Gaia is framed like a real weapon. When Yugi summons him, the show wants you to feel like something important has happened. The horse charges in, the knight lowers his lance, the music gets serious, and for a second you believe this is a monster that should scare people. Then the actual math walks in and ruins the moment. Gaia has 2300 attack. That means he loses to Dark Magician, who has 2500. He loses to Summon Skull, who also has 2500. He loses to Blue Eyes White Dragon, which has 3000 and basically eats Gaia like a snack between meetings. He even loses to Red Eyes Black Dragon, which has 2400, and Red Eyes is already famously the potential dragon, which is a nice way of saying Joey's dragon is cool, but not exactly the final boss of anything. Gaia is below all of them. He is not at the bottom of the whole monster world, obviously, but he is in a very awkward middle zone. Too big to be a small utility monster, too weak to be a true boss monster. That is the cursed place Gaia lives in. On a simple Duel Monsters power scale, you can put the tiny normal monsters and early game warriors at the bottom. Celtic Guardian is cool, but 1400 attack is 1400 attack. That card looks elegant, but if Blue Eyes sneezes in the same room, it becomes history. Then you have monsters like Lejin, which are honestly more useful than they look because they sit at 1800 attack while only being level 4. That matters. A monster like Lejin does not pretend to be royalty. It comes out, hits decently hard, and does not ask you to sacrifice half your field for the privilege. Above that, you get Gaia. He is stronger than the smaller normal monsters, yes, but he costs like a boss monster without giving you boss monster power. That is his issue. Gaia is not weak because 2300 is pathetic. Gaia is weak because 2300 is not enough for what he is supposed to be. If a monster needs the same general effort as Dark Magician, but Dark Magician has better attack, better identity, and more story importance, then Gaia is already losing before the battle even starts. Then above Gaia, you get Red Eyes Black Dragon at 2400. Red Eyes is only 100 points stronger, so this is not a giant gap, but symbolically it matters. Red Eyes is already treated like a monster with room to grow. It is Joey's card, it has heart, it has future fusion potential, and the show can get away with pretending it is special. Gaia, meanwhile, is just a dude on a horse. A very cool dude, yes, but still a dude on a horse. There's only so much emotional music can do for a man with 2300 attack. Above Red Eyes, you get Dark Magician and Summon Skull. This is where Gaia really starts looking bad. Dark Magician is level 7 like Gaia, but has 2500 attack, which makes him a cleaner boss monster. He also has the main character aura. He is Yugi's signature monster, and the show treats him like the card that represents Yugi's whole style, tricky, magical, dramatic, and always somehow involved in the final play. Gaia does not have that. Gaia charges forward. Dark Magician feels like he knows 3 things you do not. Summon Skull is even more embarrassing for Gaia because Summon Skull is level 6 with 2500 attack. That is brutal. It means Summon Skull is easier to summon under proper rules and still stronger. He is not just beating Gaia in one category. He is beating him in both value and attack. That is like hiring 2 knights. One asks for a castle, a horse, and a royal introduction, then hits for 2300. The other asks for less and hits harder. At that point, Gaia is not a bad card. He is a bad business decision. Then Blue Eyes sits above everybody from that early era like the rich kid who brought a tank to a school fight. Blue Eyes has 3000 attack, and in the early anime, that number was treated like a wall. It was not just strong, it was the number everyone else had to solve. Gaia does not solve Blue Eyes. Gaia runs into Blue Eyes and becomes a lesson. So why did Yugi use him so much? The first answer is simple. Duelist Kingdom was operating on cartoon goblin rules. In that early anime format, high-level monsters could be summoned without tributes, which completely changed the value of a card like Gaia. In normal rules, Gaia being level 7 is a massive problem because you have to give up 2 monsters to summon him. But in Duelist Kingdom, Yugi could just throw him onto the field like he was a regular monster. That makes Gaia much better inside the show than he would be in a real duel. If there is no summoning cost, then 2300 attack is suddenly not terrible. It is just a big body you can drop whenever the writers decide the horse needs screen time. That explains a lot. In Duelist Kingdom, Gaia was not competing under proper card economy. He was competing in a magical playground where terrain bonuses mattered, monsters interacted with the environment, and people won duels by saying things with confidence. If the forest is burning, the ocean is rising, a castle is floating, and someone's turtle is launching monsters like ammunition, then maybe Gaia being slightly underpowered is not the craziest thing in the room. The second reason Yugi used Gaia is that Gaia fit his deck's identity at the time. Early Yugi was not built like a clean modern deck with one perfect strategy. His deck was more like a magician's junk drawer. Some warriors, some spellcasters, some traps, some tiny monsters, some fusion pieces, some cards that only work because Yugi has the confidence of a man being possessed by an ancient pharaoh. Gaia fits that perfectly. He is not the strongest card, but he gives Yugi a direct attacker. He is the simple, blunt instrument in a deck full of weird tricks. Yugi needed cards like that. Dark Magician was his ace, but he could not just have Dark Magician do everything. Kuriboh was defense and trickery. Celtic Guardian was early pressure. Beaver Warrior existed because somebody had to get punched first. Summoned Skull was raw power. Gaia filled the role of Heroic Warrior, the physical knight, the card that looked like it belonged in a fantasy battlefield. He made Yugi's deck feel varied. And for a TV show, that matters more than perfect efficiency. The third reason is fusion. Gaia was not only Gaia, he was also half of Gaia the Dragon Champion. When paired with Curse of Dragon and Polymerization, he became a 2600 attack fusion monster. Now, 2600 is still not exactly world-ending, but in the anime, it looked fantastic. A knight riding a dragon is just naturally more dramatic than a regular dragon or a regular knight. It is the kind of card that makes a child go, yeah, that seems stronger, and honestly, fair enough. The card has visual authority. It looks like an upgrade even if the stats are only a moderate improvement. That is one of the big differences between anime usefulness and real usefulness. In the real card game, you care about cost, consistency, card advantage, and whether the payoff is worth the resources. In the anime, you care about whether the monster enters the field like it has a personal theme song. Gaia the Dragon Champion does. It is not the best fusion, but it feels like one of Yugi's classic heroic plays. The show used Gaia because Gaia could become something more cinematic. The fourth reason is that Yugi's whole thing was not brute force. This is important. Kaiba's deck was about overwhelming power. Blue Eyes is not subtle. Blue Eyes does not ask questions. It arrives and deletes the nearest problem. Yugi's deck, especially early on, was about combinations. He used weird pieces together. He would take a monster that was not strong enough by itself and turn it into part of a larger move. Gaia works in that kind of deck because Gaia is not always meant to be the final answer. Sometimes he is the bridge to the final answer. He attacks. He gets fused. He gets revived. He gets used as tribute material for Blackluster Soldier. He becomes part of a sequence. That is why calling him weak is true but incomplete. Gaia is weak as a boss monster. But as a recognizable piece in Yugi's toolbox, he has value. He is the card you remember because he keeps showing up, even when he probably should have been replaced by something with better numbers. And that is also where the show's logic comes in. Yugi used Gaia all the time because the show was not trying to build the most mathematically efficient deck. It was building a cast of monsters. That is what early Yu-Gi-Oh! Understood very well. The monsters were not just stats, they were characters. Dark Magician was the loyal ace, Kuriboh was the little survivor, Celtic Guardian was the graceful swordsman, Summoned Skull was the scary heavy hitter, Gaia was the noble knight. Once the audience recognizes those cards, the show keeps bringing them back because they become part of Yugi's identity. This is why Gaia gets away with being kind of bad. He has brand value. You see Gaia, and it feels like classic Yugi. It feels like Duelist Kingdom. It feels like that early version of the show where every duel was half card game, half playground argument, and half ancient Egyptian fever dream. Yes, that is 3 halves. Duelist Kingdom would allow it. But if we judge Gaia coldly, without nostalgia, he is absolutely underwhelming. A level 7 normal monster with 2300 attack is a rough deal. Dark Magician does the same general job better. Summon Skull does it cheaper and stronger. Blue Eyes makes him irrelevant in pure combat. Red Eyes barely beats him, but still beats him. Even lower level monsters like La Jinn can look better from a value perspective because they do not demand the same investment. Gaia's advantage was never that he was secretly powerful. His advantage was that he was flexible inside the weird anime environment. He could be summoned easily in Duelist Kingdom. He had enough attack to beat a lot of mid-tier monsters. He had fusion access with Curse of Dragon. He looked cool enough to deserve screen time, and most importantly, he belonged to Yugi's style of dueling, where the first monster is rarely the final plan. So the honest answer is this: Gaia was weak because his stats did not match his cost or his presentation. He looked like a boss monster, but he played like a mid-boss. He was not terrible, but he was outclassed by monsters that were stronger, easier to summon, or more useful. Still, Yugi kept using him because early Yu-Gi-Oh! Was about signature cards, not perfect deck building. Gaia gave Yugi a heroic warrior, a fusion route, a recognizable battlefield presence, and another piece for his ridiculous chain of actually I planned this plays. Gaia the Fierce Knight is basically the perfect early Yu-Gi-Oh! Monster. Visually iconic, emotionally useful, mathematically suspicious. He charges onto the field like a legend, gets folded by better monsters, and somehow still feels important because Yugi keeps acting like this horseman is part of a master plan. And in Duel Monsters, if Yugi acts like something is part of a master plan, the universe usually bends over and lets him be right.